Hey, this is Tim. If you've been on a journey of trying to make money online with something like remote sales, which I assume if you're watching my content, you are in the remote sales, the high ticket sales space, or trying to get into it, at least trying to make money with it. In this video, I'm going to talk about visualization. I'm going to talk about manifestation. I'm going to talk about training your mind to see that what you want can be achieved. I'm not going to go woo-woo. We're not going to make this deeply spiritual. So when a lot of people hear visualization and manifestation, they kind of get psyched out. I know I used to as well. When I got into this space in 2023, which is when I had lost everything and I had to make money for myself and my family. At first, when I thought about manifestation, I thought about all this kind of corny woo-woo stuff, like, oh, just manifest your dreams. It's bullshit, right? But I'm going to take a different approach here in this video, and I'm going to give you some of the principles actually that helped me change my life and make a whole bunch of money. Build a business now that's pushing $500,000, or probably will go over $500,000 this year. And how I was able to do that, how I was able to make hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions as a high-ticket sales rep, using the principles of visualization, manifestation that I'm going to give you here. So if you decide to stay in this video, if you decide to not click off if you haven't already, then approach this with an open mind, because the training, the insights that I'm going to give you here, especially if you're in the journey of trying to make real money and get real freedom with high ticket sales, will absolutely change your life, because it changed mine. So I'm giving to you exactly what I did. And these principles are not principles that I made up on my own, to be clear. I learned these principles from a book called Psycho-cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, which absolutely changed my life. This was probably one of the only self-development books that I've read, or the self-development mindset, personal improvement books that I've read, that I can say I saw a direct change in the results I was experiencing in my life after having read that book. So when I had not read the book, before I read it, my life was at one state, which was, I'll share what that was in a second. But at the end, when I had finished reading the book and when I had applied the principles, let's say a month or 2 months afterwards, I looked at the trajectory of my life and where my life was going, and I was in a completely different place. I was going to a completely different path in my life, leading to where I am now and leading to where I will be in the near and the distant future. Okay? And if you stay to the end of the video, which I recommend you do, I'm going to give you an exercise, a very, very powerful psychological exercise that you can use to fast track your way to success. Most people will not have success with this, by the way, because everyone wants success, but very few people do. But those of you who listen to it and apply it, and who work on the skill sets required to achieve the holy grail that you want, which is freedom for yourself, those in your life, for your future, you will be able to achieve success with what I'm going to show you here. Again, most people will not achieve success. That's the truth. And I'd be lying if I said everyone will achieve success. But a few of you will. So the few of you who will achieve success, I'm talking to you, okay? So in 2023, for some context, I was broke and I lost everything. I was a dating coach, and I'd partnered with my friend to build a coaching business. I already had a business that was doing okay. I'd make $5K a month. Sometimes I'd make $10K in a month. I had a month where I did $12K. You know, I was doing okay, but I was always in these periods of up and down scarcity. It wasn't anything consistent. It was never consistent for me. And then I partnered with my friend, and we decided to go into business together because he knew about the space that I was in. He had some experience marketing, and it just went very poorly. I won't say anyone was specifically at fault. I mean, both of us did things that didn't help the business grow, but we just didn't work together well, and the business ended up crashing, right? We booked no sales calls. It was really, really bad. We made no money. And I lost a lot of money as well. He lost money too. We both got into a pretty bad spot, and I owed him money. So what happened was I went from this position where I had some kind of income coming in with some marginal consistency, but nothing that really gave me a life of freedom. I was always able to pay some bills. I was always able to, cover food, go out to a restaurant here and there, do 1 or 2 trips a year, things like that, or if I really cut down my expenses, I could travel more. But I wasn't really able to thrive. I wasn't able to do that. And then ran out of money, basically, and I had to figure out, what am I going to do next? So I decided to put my savings into a training program, teach me sales. And I got into sales. I got into remote high-ticket sales. At first, it sucked. I wasn't good at it. But then later, I kind of got the story backwards. First, I got into sales. So in 2023, I decided the business is not working. I'm going to leave and get into sales. This is middle of 2023. And then I got cooked. It was terrible. I wasn't performing well at all. I was making barely $2,000 in commissions, and I was closing like 10%. It wasn't good at all. And I was on an offer where I could have made more money if I was better at sales, but I wasn't good, right? So I struggled. And then I invested my money into a coaching program to teach me how to handle objections. So I was like, I have to learn how to get good at this. And I realized, very luckily, I realized very fast, is that if I recognized and if I worked on my skill set as a sales rep, I'd be able to make more money. So I invested in this training program. I put the last of my savings into the program. Really, I didn't know how I would even make the next payments. And I told the guy who closed me on that. I told him that, and he was like, well, come on a payment plan. You can figure the rest out later. So I got into the program. I learned how to handle objections, and I started seeing better results. And now for me, because I had competency and I had been a dating coach for a very long time, I understood human behavior, psychology, communication way better than a lot of the people I had gone into this program with at the same time with, right? The people that started with me, who came in around the same time as me, I was a bit more competent than them because I had years of studying human behavior anyways, but as a dating coach, studying confidence, leadership, communication skills, all of those things. So I was able to take that and I was able to use it to grow my skill set faster than a lot of my peers in this coaching program. And then I started making money. I started seeing commissions months. This is around 2024 now, early 2024, started making money where I was doing 10K a month, then I did 15K, then I got to 18K, and I was starting to close bigger deals. I was closing $20,000 deals. Someone made I did a call where they paid $17,000 paid in full on the call, all in cash, straight up, no credit, no financing, just straight up in cash, right? So I got very, very good at sales. And then people started asking me for advice. I started putting out my sales calls live on YouTube. I started sharing what I was doing because I'm that kind of person. When I start doing something well, like better than a lot of other people, I like to share what I'm learning and how I'm doing it. So I started putting out my calls. I started sharing a lot of information on it, put together a free community. And then a couple months later, I had a handful of guys saying, hey, can you show me more of your calls and teach me how to sell the way you're selling? Because again, I had all these years of dating experience. And then fast forward to now, I'm running a coaching and consulting business where I work with amazing business owners and amazing sales reps, helping them to grow their business or grow their careers as a sales rep in high ticket sales and hit months of 15, 20, 25K plus in commissions. We've had a bunch of people who have done that, some of who I've mentioned in this video. And now I'm running a business that's on pace to do over $500,000 this year. Okay. And I've changed my life completely. Why do I share this with you? I want to give context and background. Because I follow the rules of Psycho-cybernetics. Psycho-cybernetics follows a very, very specific fundamental framework, and I'd recommend everyone read this book because it changed my life. What it follows is this. It's a principle that I call future memory. That's how I label it. In the book, they call it something different, but I call the overall principle future memory, which is basically if you can see a specific future that you want to create, if you can see it, and then you can attach memory to that future. Okay, there's a lot we're going to get into here. This is going to be one of those dense videos that really challenges you, and we're going to go into a lot. So if you can see a specific future that you want to create and you can attach a memory to that future, which means you can attach sights, you can attach sounds, you can attach places, locations, conversations, smells to that future, your brain can't distinguish a future memory from one that really happened. It can't. This is a real thing, actually. When you remember something, your brain just associates a collection of smells, sights, sounds, and memories with it. But if you take a future that you want to have, let's say that you say, I'd like to make 15K per month and I want to move my mom out of her current location and I want to move her to a better city and I want to go move to a better city with my mom. Let's pretend that's your why, right? The reason you're doing this. What would happen is you would visualize a life, not this big picture, but you would visualize a day, a moment, a minute where you have moved your mom out, you're living in a new city, you have a specific car, you have a specific location you're in, you and your mom are having a specific dinner together, right? And you're having a specific moment and you visualize it. You create a memory around that future and it actually becomes a real identity. So what happens is you attach a memory to the future and you create a mental picture around it based on the life that you want to live, and then you create an identity around that. So that's what I did. That was my process. I've given you the whole thing here. Now we're going to go into how, and I'm going to teach you in this video. I'm going to give you a lot of insights and things you can use to make this happen for real, without it just being a concept. But that's the formula. That's what I did. Now, there's a lot that went into it, right? There's this formula I teach called skill set and opportunity, skill set times opportunity, which all of the reps that we train, the people who come into protocols and train with us, they understand that it's skill set times opportunity. The reps I've trained who've done the very best for themselves understand this game. But I realized this in 2023, and me understanding that there was this new way that I could approach my goals led to me fueling and creating a better future for myself, which I'm going to share now. So the first thing that I did, the core fundamental strategy that I used was changing my own self-image. That was the first one. Changing the way that I perceived myself as an individual, and then letting that perception affect how I chose to show up in the world. That was the key. So in 2023, I realized that the person that I was at that time, which was someone who was like, I'm running this coaching business, I'm making a little bit of money, it's nothing really consistent, I don't really have a lot of control over my life. Some months are good, some months are bad, but I'm kind of just floating as a coach. I was not the person who would have access to a better life, because me being a dating coach, although I did enjoy being a dating coach to an extent, I kind of didn't even, but after a while I stopped enjoying it. But for a large period of time, I did enjoy being a dating coach. I wasn't solving a problem that was very easily scalable, meaning where I could help more people at scale very easily. I wasn't able to do that as a dating coach. And maybe there's some things I would have done differently in retrospect, thinking back, because there are dating coaches making money. But I know that that industry, because you're not really tapped into income, right? And you're not selling something that's giving people a financial ROI, which doesn't mean, by the way, dating coaches can't make money, because the company I was working for, closing for, they're $1 million company. They're doing over 7 figures a year consistently, and I made a good amount of money working with them. I was able to take care of everything I needed and more working with them, right? But the way that I had built my business as a coach, I didn't have access to all those leads. I didn't have access to all of that flow that I actually would have wanted to have if I was scaling it, if I was properly growing it. So what I did instead is I made a pivot. Instead of me saying I'm the dating coach who has some clients, sometimes he doesn't, I'm in these periods of scarcity, I changed my self-image and I created a new self-image around skill. Completely around skill. And I learned a skill set that I knew was going to create substantially more income for myself and the people who mattered most in my life, right? I knew that I was going to be able to give back to people in my life by learning a skill. Because again, I started off with, I have this business that I'm running. I'm a dating coach. Cool that, I'm helping some people, but I wasn't tapped into a skill set that directly anchored to creating income for myself, right? It was one step removed, and maybe this is a bit dense for some of you to get, but it's important. My skill set wasn't directly related to money. My skill set was related to dating, which means that some guys were like, oh, I want help with it, and some guys were like, I don't need help with this, which is funny because almost all of them did, even if they didn't think they did, and they're like, I do fine with women. A lot of them did need help, but it's fine. Sometimes people have ego around it and think they're very good. But what happened was, because I wasn't directly helping people create income necessarily, or because my skill set, which I shifted later to sales, because I wasn't in an industry where I was producing that kind of value, income generating value for someone else, I was not able to easily create freedom. Easy is relative, but I wasn't able to create abundance and freedom for myself, right? As easily as I could have, which I did once I learned sales, because I was directly making money for a company, right? That's what changed. And one of the things that I've seen is our top performing clients, the guys who have made lots of money with us, the guys and gals who have done very well training with me, people like Sati, people like Charlie, who have made a bunch of money. I'm talking Sati doing 25K per month, Charlie 25K per month, Valeria left her 9 to 5, got into sales full time, doing 8 to 10K per month, Jabari 15K per month, right? These sales reps that I've trained, they all had the same thing. They had a clear why, like a clear vision. Sati's a great example. Is my client Sati, who's a 25K per month closer now, closes on one of the top offers in the wellness space. He's an example of this. Had such a strong why of a life that he wanted to give to his family, created that life for them by learning skill set and shifting the self-image from someone who just showed up as a car salesman, which is what he was originally, and then pivoted into remote sales and said, I'm going to recognize the power of skill set to do something that most people can't do, which is close high ticket deals on Zoom, right? You look at someone like Jabari, 15K per month closer, comes from a background where, there's a lot of rough stuff in his background, has to take care of family, a lot of pressure on him to be an example for his siblings, right? Him being in that position, taking on the identity and the self-image of skill set is going to get me to where I want to be. Someone like Husham, right? Live in Australia, comes from an immigrant background, has responsibility to take care of his mom, his sister, and give them a better life, which is a huge thing that drives him. What's the self-image? Skill set. So I made this pivot myself in 2023, and this started, of course, me reading Psycho-cybernetics and realizing, oh, the life that I want to create, that guy who's making money, who's giving back to his family, who's like giving more to his mom, who's giving more to his girl, who's giving them a better life, that comes from skill set. The second thing, and this was the other game-changing key for me, and then I'm going to give you a very helpful exercise, is imagination, not willpower. So a lot of people, and I'm sure you've been stuck in this cycle before, I know I have, a lot of people are so reliant on willpower. I'm going to force myself to be better. I'm going to force myself to get results. I'm going to force myself to achieve success, right? I'm going to force myself. But because you're operating through force and not your own personal power, because you're like, I'm going to force myself with willpower, I'm just going to will myself to do it. I'm going to will myself to make it happen. Because you're relying on that, you're oftentimes limited in your capacity to maintain that willfulness. I know I am. Like, I'm not the kind of person who just wakes up every day and wills himself to do something out of nowhere. That's not me. I'm not that kind of person. I see these guys online, these entrepreneurs, like who are just kind of psycho, which is super cool. I'm not saying it in a bad way. They have this psycho energy where they're just every day I'm absolutely manic. Every single day I'm just pushing super hard because I just want it more than anyone, just because I'm that kind of guy. I don't have that in me. That's not me, right? Instead, what I do have within myself, though, is an extreme imagination of a future that I want to create. And I have a visual around what that future looks like. I can see it in my head. And a lot of the goals that I have created for myself, right? A lot of the goals that I have accomplished. A lot of the goals that I've had in mind, I have created and brought into fruition because I've seen them first. So my imagination is the thing that's actually fueling me. I started to imagine my own performance and my own success, and I didn't rely on brute forcing myself into some reality through willpower, right? So that's the manifestation. It wasn't like, don't work hard, or it wasn't like, or it's not just like sit back and let the universe give you things. No, it's I visually see a specific future that I want to create for myself, for my family, for the people around me. I can see what it looks like. What actions would I take in the present to make that happen? And a lot of people I see online make this mistake. Most people force themselves to take action relying on willpower alone with not a strong enough vision backing it. And when I say vision, I don't just mean a vision in concept, like a vision in theory. Yeah, I want this just because I want it, right? Like, I want this just because that's something that I'm supposed to have. That's something that I'm supposed to get results with. That's something that I'm supposed to just do. It's something. That's not a strong enough vision. To me, the vision is a visual stimulus. It's you being able to see a specific future, being able to actively realize that that future is something that you can create in your life because you see it, you can taste it, you can hear it, you can feel it. And the exercise that I'm going to give you is going to follow that. Before I give you the exercise, I've taken many sales reps through this process. We've coached just about 80 sales reps over the last year. It could be a little bit more than that. Depends also on what you count as coach, because I've had a lot of consulting clients too. I also coach them, but it's more business development. But we've worked with, let's say, 80 to 100 people in a sales capacity, training them in sales for over the last year. And one of the things that I've seen that's very clear in our process and the way that we train our sales reps is the sales reps who do the best are those who have the strongest why. Not the strongest why again in concept, but those who can see a better future for themselves, for their families, for the people that they care about, the people who matter the most, and they can work towards creating that future for them. If you would like to see if myself or my team can help you to achieve those goals of 10K, 15K, 25K plus commission months, the way that our top performing reps are doing, book a strategy call down below. It's not a sales call. I don't sell anything directly from YouTube. You couldn't book a sales call with me even if you wanted to. We're not going to pitch you. We don't do that. All we want to do is see if we can help in terms of your sales journey, in terms of where you're at from a skill set standpoint, where you're at with opportunities, getting on offers. We want to see where you're at and then provide direction from that call. Either the direction is going to be, we believe we could help you, and then my team is going to invite you to book a call with me where I'll break down how protocols training works, what our system is, what our process is, and show you how it can make you money. Or if we feel like we can't help you, we'll point you in the direction of other resources that are just free and give you some insight, give you some information, some light, helpful tools, which could also be interesting for you. And then maybe one day we work with you and help you in a greater capacity. That's our process. Okay? So I'm going to give you, if you look down below for the strategy call link, it's 15 minutes. There's no pitch, like I already said. The link is below. But I'm going to give you a very, very helpful exercise here, okay? And this exercise is called the theater of the mind. The theater of the mind it's a practical exercise where what I want you to do is take a second, relax, you close your eyes, and you create and you run a mental movie where you act, you feel, you succeed, you position yourself as the person that you want to be. So you visualize a future where you have already achieved the success that you would like to have in your life. You see that future, you embody that future in this movie, and you actually take yourself to a real life movie. By the way, I do this exercise very often for myself, right? A lot of people ask me, how do I keep making YouTube videos? How do I keep making content, keep showing up, keep dialing in our programs, our training? How do I do all that? Well, the reason is because there's a very specific future I see in my head of a life that I want to create, a life that I've given to my family, a life that I've given to the people who matter most to me. I can see that life, but I don't just see it in my mind conceptually. I actually have a movie created around it. So close your eyes, treat this as a meditation, and run a mental movie. The more vivid the scene, which means the more you see the emotion, the more you see the sights, the more you see the sounds, the more that your brain accepts that as a reality. The more you can see it, the more your brain accepts it. And over time, what will happen is your mind, your behavior begins to align with this rehearsal. So you have a constant rehearsal, this mental rehearsal in your own head. You have this constant movie playing through your mind, not 24/7, but once a week, twice a week, where you sit down and meditate on this movie, on this ideal dream future. You see it, future memory. You see it, you create it in your own mind, and your brain begins to, your body begins to accept it as real, and your behavior begins to align with it, right? So the man or woman who is in this position where you have income coming in, you have actual real freedom, what is the emotions, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the tastes that go along with that? Create a movie and have one movie that you continue to run at different times. So I have a very specific, a collection of a few memories, future memories that I can just recreate in my head at any given time, and I can see them, I can feel them, I can taste them, right? I can see them. Then what you do is you act on it. You have the behavior now locked in because you're like, I know how that person would behave. I know how that guy would behave. I know how that person would act in the future. But then you act on it in the present. You begin to work on your skill set. And while I'll tell you, if you're watching my channel, you know this, that sales is the most predictable and the fastest way to achieve freedom. That's something I absolutely believe. I don't believe it's the easiest, by the way. I don't think it's that easy. I think getting into sales and making it in remote sales it takes a substantial amount of work and effort. As the guys in our training program see this every week. It is difficult. However, it is the most predictable and the fastest way to create freedom online. It is absolutely the fastest way, if that makes sense, right? Because the path from going from 0 or going from 3K to 4K to hitting once a 15, 20K is not very complicated. And I've seen many of our reps do that in under a year. I've seen many people in the space do that in just under a year, 6 months even. 3 months I've seen it even. I've seen it happen, right? So that's the game. That's my exercise. That's my personal ritual. That's my manifestation. That's my visualization. Hopefully it meant something. Hopefully you use this and take it and run with it, okay? I'll leave you there. Don't just hear this training and be like, oh, this is good training. Thanks, Tim, for that. But actually go and apply it. And if you'd like me to help you with it, book a call. It's 15 minutes. We don't pitch you anything. We just see if we can help you, see if it would be a good fit, if there would be alignment for us to work with you so you can be one of those stories, that I share, people who have made money working with me and using my system, okay? If we can help, we can. If we can't, we can't. But otherwise, go out, take some action, go change your life. Goodbye. Take care. I will see you on the next one.